There. Welcome to Creation Station Monthly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our monthly program where we talk to two creative people who are working on some kind of field and talk about how they got into it, what made them feel creative in this area. Yeah, that word create, we like that a lot around here. And as always, if you have any ideas, you can always email us creationstation@broward.org. This month, we're going to talk about virtual reality. And we have a really fun guest right now in Anthony. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thanks, Robert, for inviting me, and thanks everyone for joining this
And
event.
and thank you for and he Anthony's coming to us from Italy. He's up in Turin, Italy, and
Yeah.
so thank you very much for dealing with our time change for us. He has been someone who has been in this field for a long time. I've been following him forever, it feels like. And I wanted to get you in here and talk about our ideas on, just like we always do, what virtual reality is, why you're into it, how you kind of fell into this field, because it's not something that was around when you were a kid, when I was a kid. So, how did you fall into doing virtual reality and getting so deep into it like you are right now?
Well, it's an interesting story. I mean, like many kids, I've always been interested into gaming and such, and always loved computers, and I always wanted to program them also because, I loved the games and wanted to do them myself, even when I was a kid. So fast forward many years, and basically at university, I studied computer science engineering and then multimedia. And what happened is that I also got interested in things like computer vision that I even didn't know it existed. In my thesis, I started exploring this thing about mixing real
Okay, so I'm
elements
going to
with
pause
virtual.
you right there and let you explain that one, what computer vision actually is.
Computer vision is basically analyzing images, static images or images in a video to extract some information or do something else. Like when you put your face in front of the webcam and the system detects where your face is, that's computer vision magic that takes the images, analyzes them with some magic and say, okay, this is the rectangle around the face. So like
Gotcha.
when you shoot a photo on the smartphone and detects the faces. That's computer vision. And so I started seeing things about putting virtual elements on top of real ones. And I didn't even know it was augmented reality, but I was quite excited about this fact that you could mix realities. That was my first approach. But my and then I also tried to create an engine like Vuforia, etc. myself to try to do these things. And it worked for like 5 seconds. So you try
Uh-huh.
to put the phone next to the marker. For 5 seconds, tracking was pretty good, but then it went terribly. It was just
But it's an
experimenting.
experiment. That's the whole goal, is it to experiment and mess around?
Yeah, reading papers and trying stuff. But actually, when I really got into it, like I wanted to say, okay, I want my life, my next 10, 20 years to do about these technologies, where was when in a previous classmate at the university, he asked me to join his venture. He wanted to create something new, a company, etc. I say, hey, I know you like these things about reality, so join me. And so basically, I joined him and we tried some new gadgets. And one of them that he brought me was the Oculus Rift DK2. Went to his office, I put the Oculus Rift DK2 in front of my face, and I see myself teleported into another world. It was, the Tuscany demo. If you used VR, you probably remember this demo where you were in a villa in Tuscany, very
Uh-huh.
relaxing with the sea around you. And I was like, wow, I'm in a gray office and I see myself being in a villa in Tuscany. That's amazing. That's magic.
Yeah.
I understood immediately the potential. I fell in love with the technology. And so I said, okay, I want to do this. But after a few minutes, I had to remove the headset because too much nausea, the DK2 was terrible for
Yeah,
today's
it was. Yeah.
standards. But
We had that here at the library, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge.
but it was good again to make you understand the potential of the technology. And so this is how I really got started into VR and AR, basically.
So now, do you think when you got into this, was it something that you had like help from your parents? I mean, going through school, or was it more your friends and people that were in school that kind of directed you? Because when you said you started school towards computer engineering, and now you've kind of veered over more towards the gaming side. And in previous episodes of this, we've talked to people who do gaming and people who do engineering, and they seem to be very different fields when you start really digging into it. Um, so how did they make that crossover? What, did you get support from someone to do that, or was it just something that you, while you were in school, decided to kind of go over on the side?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think I got my passion for computers and such from my father, basically, that he was very fond of these new technologies as well. So I had, one of those old computers with the green screens and in the end of the 80s. So I could already, as a baby, start playing some games,
Do you
but
remember what kind it was?
it was an Amstrad CPC 464.
Okay, yeah, I had an old Commodore. I had the Commodore, I had the VIC-20, and then I had a Commodore 64 back then. Yeah.
Yeah, there was, one of the Commodore was more
Hmm.
popular. There are also some people with an Amstrad, and it's fun that I also found an emulator now to
Yeah.
play the old games. That's incredible. But anyway, I don't know why, but even I liked so much playing it as a kid on these games that I really wanted to do something of mine. And I think that this first love has just guided me in all my choices in school, etc. And then, of course, I could really start digging into it at the university by studying computer science engineering. And it seemed to me the most natural choice because when I went into the university, it was not like a video game course at the university.
Hmm.
So the most natural choice was doing computer science engineering. And there I met with people that were more into, deep tech of computers, networks, etc. Other were more
Yeah.
like gaming side. And it was interesting to see that anyway, it's all connected. I think that the love for gaming is what drives you forward. That, it's the star that guides you. And then the engineering love and my love also for maths and this kind of solving problems, things is what helps me in reaching that goal. I think it's all connected. One is the purpose, another one is the means. I think that studying engineering has been very useful because it really taught me how to consider all different technologies together and also trying always to find a practical solution to solve the problems. And practicality is needed a lot in game development.
So now so in your in your job, do you do, how much of it is VR related versus money making kind of thing, along the lines of, if somebody were to look at this like, I want to get into VR and make money, is there a way to get into VR and make money without being a hardcore programmer, or is that really you need to be a coder to get into that VR set, to get into that idea as a career?
Well, actually not. I mean, there are many different careers in VR and in gaming that you should not necessarily be a developer. I mean, I'm a developer because I've always been a techie guy, a science guy, a math guy. So it's been the natural choice. If you're more on the artistic side, you can make 3D models, for instance. You can make 2D sketches that are realized by the 3D artists and developers. You can be a designer, so you can create stories for a VR game. You can create the rules, so be a game designer for a VR game, or you can, for instance, talking about AR and not VR. Now there is a lot of work happening in AR filters. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's something related to AR, and some people are earning good money out of it. So there are many different professions that you can do in AR and VR. Some are more technical, other more artistic, some are other business related. There are people looking for investments and in
Yeah.
AR and
Yeah.
VR. And
Yeah. We're leaning into that, as you mentioned, AR, augmented reality, and we're leaning into that metaverse idea that's been talked about a lot during thing. By the way, the library's gonna have a class on that for you next year. Um, there is, it's that idea of, it's all sorts to blend together and figuring out where and what. And I think that this is, I always think about those old cartoons about, oh, you'll never make money playing games. And now it seems like, yeah, you actually might be able to make money pretty decently, at least working with the games, if not actually playing them themselves. So, what kind of equipment do you actually use
What
when you're
kind of?
doing this kind of stuff? What kind of equipment are you using? We threw around a couple of terms about Oculus and stuff, but tell me, what kind of stuff do you actually use when you're programming versus using?
Well, when I'm programming, so basically as a hardware now, I'm using almost only the Quest 2 for the reason that it's practical, basically. So I can be in my office, I can be at home, especially now, sometimes we're locked in, some
Yeah.
others we don't know. So I remember when I had to do during the first lockdown the test with the Vive, I had to install the base station at home. It was a disaster because I don't have the space here. Then there was the cable, attach it to the laptop. Now with the Quest, there's one cable. I can put it in the bag and go in the office, go in the library, go everywhere and work or play, etc. So it's just a matter of practicality. Regarding the other tools, the software tools, I can say that I'm a Unity guy, so I use a game engine called Unity that is probably the most popular one, especially for mobile
Yeah.
applications. It has a great community, while the competitor that is Unreal has stronger graphics but requires also more technical knowledge and also, sometimes is not immediately compatible with the new hardware. That's
Hmm.
a little problem that Unreal is having, but are both amazing products. And I'm a Unity guy. For coding, I use Visual Studio, like many people out there. And as a user instead, I mostly, when I use VR, and I have time, I mean, I play games these days. I'm
Good.
playing with Resident Evil
Good, good, good.
VR.
You need to relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exploiting the holidays, even if I'm still working every day to play a bit Resident Evil 4 VR. That is a very
Tell
cool
me, how much of that
technology.
can you do in your headset?
How
How much
much?
of it is how much of that programming? Because you're using Unity,
Yeah.
and so when you're in there, are you programming inside of a headset yet? Have we gotten to that point where developers can build inside of, I guess it would be referred to as a sandbox, where you're in VR and building in VR, or is it still something that you're coding on a computer and then you go pick up a headset to check how your code looks?
Well, actually, my suggestion to all developers is using VR the least that you can while you are developing. And not because I don't love VR, I'm here because it's 7 years that I love virtual reality. But the fact is that in this moment, it makes everything slower for a developer, for an artist, etc. Because I've tried to, for instance, to develop with the Valve Index, that is for my head probably the most comfortable headset and developing Unity there. I managed to do that for 4 hours, but after 2 or 3 hours, I started feeling some headache or a bit of moist inside of
Yeah.
the headset. It was not that comfortable. Plus, if you do the tests with the VR headset, every time you have to put it on, do the test, put it off, do the stuff, move the mouse, put it on. It's not good. Now, for instance, when we are doing a fitness game called Hit Motion Reloaded, and for instance, I have some shortcuts to do things on the keyboard without putting the headset. Destroy enemy with the H key, hurt the player with the R key, etc., without putting the headset because it's much, much faster. And then when you have to do the final test, of course, you put the headset, you do
Hmm.
all the tests in the headset. From my experience, is better for now. Of course, we all hope that in the future will be better with the headset, also because you could code and see everything updating next to you, etc. But
Yeah.
at the moment, it is not like that.
So when you're doing this, when you talk with your family and friends, they kind of know, okay, you're this computer. Is it that, oh yeah, Tony's a computer geek. He's the guy who does these sorts of things, or is it something that you feel like it's an everyday thing that people understand yet? Or is it still, I mean, I know when we're introducing virtual reality with the public, we have to actually know, come over here, put the headset on, let me show you what we really mean. How do you think they understand you as on the creative aspect of it, as being that person who's designing and building all this?
Well, for my friends, I mean, I have many friends that are not in the tech side of the world, basically. And sometimes it's good because so you can go out in a pub and not talk about work and computers for at least 2 hours. For them, they are the VR guy. They are the guy that says that, oh, in 10 years, we'll all have glasses in front of the face, like a crazy guy with a tinfoil hat that,
Yeah.
and this kind of stuff. But actually, they are a bit fascinated by what I do. And I have to say that it's the understanding of what I do has improved over time. In 2014, I was like, oh, what is VR? I mean, I don't understand. Then there was the Gear VR, the cardboard, and everyone has tried VR in some exhibition sooner or later. So at least they know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes they still ask me to come to the office to try something, to understand better, to play a bit also, let's be honest.
Oh yeah. No,
And
playing is very important. We all need that break to play, and we all need, just playing helps you understand what some of the other possibilities are.
yeah, and basically, so now my close friends, one of them understands what I'm doing also because they all have come to my office. But of course, there is not a clear understanding of what is the potential of the technology, what can be the future. They're afraid when I say that maybe in 10 years we'll have a glass always on our faces.
Yeah.
They don't understand now this metaverse thing. I think I'm also
Yeah,
one that understood it.
let's get into that for just a second there, because that's kind of where the conversation seems to be going in a lot of the tech side of things, and I think that it gets thrown out to the general public without. So a quick definition of the metaverse would be just it is just a layer that it overlays everything else around us, and it's just computer enhanced information, very much like augmented reality. When you put on your glasses, now you can see directions right there on your glasses or on your phone, etc. So where do you think that whole metaverse, where we bleed in from virtual reality to augmented reality to the metaverse, as you said, people are scared of it. I think partially it is they don't understand the privacy concerns, or they don't understand how it works, how the privacy concerns work. How do you deal with that in the field? How do you deal with that when people are like, well, wait a minute, I don't want you reading all my data?
Well, actually, it's a bit fun now in this moment when is talking about the metaverse. Jokingly, sometimes I call it the M word because everyone is pronouncing it, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired of all this hype of the word misused by everyone. And I mean, I like when we in the field talk about it. I don't like when people from outside the field just want to have some quick views and make some money by saying a word they have, I don't know, read some two articles about and I start talking
Yeah.
about it just because it's the buzzword of the moment. But actually, I also want to say that the definition that I like to say to people, because when I talk with them, I also saw recently Elon Musk said basically not these exact words, but the sense that was that I can't believe that people want to have a headset in front of their face for a lot of time just to escape. Sooner or later, they want to exit this virtual world. And I'm like, I mean, this is not the metaverse. This is not the Ready Player One, the real metaverse. And if even Elon Musk, that is one of the top tech entrepreneurs, hasn't got a concept, there is a big communication problem for all of us. How I like to define the metaverse is like the internet that becomes immersive and spatial, basically. The like adding a layer to the internet. I say, guys, we're already basically like in a 2D metaverse. We have an external screen like the one on the phone.
Yep.
Imagine this disappears and goes all around us.
Yeah.
So it's basically as before, you're afraid of people closing yourself. Well, I watch around me on the bus, everyone is like this. So they're already in another world with their mind. Nothing is going to change on that side. Also, the privacy. People are afraid of the cookies and then they share what they are doing with their boyfriend or
Yeah.
girlfriends on Facebook. So there are a lot of contradictions actually. But I have to say that we in the tech space are very afraid for the privacy because we understand the real risk. I see the other people that talk about the thing that we have glasses in our face. They're like, um, more afraid of this thing of having always glasses in the face. They say, why should I wear glasses? What is the sense? Are we going to, alienate ourselves from other humans? What is going to happen? So it's a bit scary to say you have to wear glasses in front of always on in all the time. I see that some people are scared already about the glasses without even thinking about the privacy. So I think there is a lot of work to be done also to make people understand
Yeah.
what is the potential, why we should have glasses, and then I think we should start thinking also about the privacy issues and talk about it because there is a huge privacy potential problem. I hope that there won't be, but we know that there is a
Well, yeah, and I
potential
think that
risk.
that's, when we come at from a library perspective, and we want to give people access to these things at the library so you can experiment without having to give your personal information out, and you can try and do these things here at the library in a public setting where you're not sacrificing any of that information. Um, and that's kind of where we go to the next question is just so what is it that's the number one you think misconception that people have about this whole idea of privacy slash metaverse slash virtual reality stuff? What do you think the number one misconception is for people who are totally out of the field that you think being in the field corrects or helps people understand better?
Well, as I said, probably the two biggest things people don't understand about the metaverse. The first one is that it's not something by Facebook, Meta, whatever, because some people think that Zuckerberg is invented it basically. And why Zuckerberg? I think he did a great job in just creating this buzz. This is what he wanted, and basically he
Mm-hmm.
obtained it. So good job for him. And the second thing is that it is not a VR world because these are both two scary things, actually. People think, oh, the metaverse is from Facebook. Facebook has not a good reputation. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
And so people are scared that it's a place where everyone will steal your data. But it's like, as I said, it's just the internet. On the internet, a company steal your data. A company, I don't know, like Wikipedia, that just give you without stealing. So that's huge opportunity also. And regarding the VR stuff, people are afraid when they think that the metaverse is we are all in a virtual world like Ready Player One. We alienate ourselves for real life to dedicate ourselves to fully virtual world. And that's a scary concept because we're not human anymore. We just ignore people around us, etc., etc. While it is totally not true because it's most of the time, at least in the beginning, I think the metaverse will be something in AR. So you see people around you,
Yeah.
you interact with them. Maybe can also see people that are not physical with you and see with them in your same room. So it can
Yeah. It's a
enhance your
webcam.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pro actually. So people should start thinking also about the pro side and don't think it's just a VR world. This is or a gaming world. I know there is, for instance, a blogger that I read here in Italy that talks about productivity and personal growth, etc. He wrote a post on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, we don't want just to everyone to be in a gaming world like Zuckerberg said." And answer, no, this is not what Zuckerberg said, actually.
Yeah.
We should think that there are huge opportunity for growth for everyone. Like the internet has brought bad things, online cyberbullying, viruses, etc. But we have learned so much thanks to the internet. I am here
Yeah.
talking with you thanks to the
I
internet.
know. No, there's no way we would have ever met anywhere and found each other like that. And I agree. And that's kind of the thing. So let's take a step back for you then. So I want to know what's the one thing you've created that you're the most proud of, the thing that makes you happy that you like sharing with the world and doing. What's that one project that you're happiest about?
Well, that's weird because every I'm like a dad of all my projects. So, I started with a previous classmates of mine on a full body wear solution called Emotional. Now we're doing the fitness game called Hit Motion Reloaded. That's going pretty well on Apple. But if I had to choose one, I mean, just because let's pick one, not because I liked it the most, because I like them all, but because it was the one with the biggest resonance in the world. There's been the concert we did with Jean-Michel Jarre in Notre Dame at the end of last year. I'm working with Vroom in virtual events and concerts since 2019. And at the end of 2020, for the last year, for New Year's Eve, we did a concert in VRChat with Jean-Michel Jarre that he is like a legend of electronic music, and in the 70s and 80s, he has innovated a lot his field. Now he is pretty old, but he still has, the spark of innovation in him. If we put him inside Notre Dame, Notre Dame now
Oh,
is
nice.
the Notre Dame Cathedral that has been destroyed.
Yeah.
It's a mess. But we made a 3D model of Notre Dame. We put his avatar inside, and he could play his music live for all the people who want to join him inside VR chat in VR on the PC. We streamed also it via YouTube, Facebook, etc. Was streamed on France Television also
And you
because
did all
of
this live?
yeah, there was live event, and then for technical reason there was also a recording for all the people that wanted to join at whatever moment. And it was so cool because basically we had the total among all beings worldwide more than 75 million views. So it's a very big
Wow. Yeah,
number.
that's something to definitely be proud of. Yeah, congrats. I
The
don't think I've ever done anything near, wow, 75 million. That's a nice, impressive thing, reach.
yeah, I was pretty surprised when I read about it. I was
And
like,
and
is
that,
it
that goes right
possible?
back to what you were talking about with games. And I mean, that's not a game. That's just an experience. That's what this is all about, is helping humans experience other humans. And that's exactly what you did there. That's a great example.
Yeah, then I also was featured on the Unity blog, and it was pretty impressive for me, like a dev from Turin, Italy.
Uh-huh.
Find myself on the blog of a company worth billions of dollars, and
Yeah.
I could see, a small piece about it on the national TV
Mhm.
news in Italy. They didn't know there were Italian people involved in the project, luckily. But they talking about it. I was like, wow, the TV is talking about our project, and that's pretty impressive. And I think it was incredible for all these awards. And the many views, people especially loved it. We got great feedback. People had fun during the
Yeah.
lockdown. Thanks to us, this makes us super
Yeah.
proud. And also, I'm proud to say that it is one of the great examples of why VR has so huge potential. Because in real life, it's impossible. You have a concert of electronic music in a Notre Dame
Yes.
Cathedral that is not even here
Yeah.
anymore, with 3D objects coming all around you and dancing at the rhythm of the music. It's impossible. Only VR can give you this, and that's the
Yeah.
potential of VR events.
That is like the definition of living in the future. It really is. It is just an amazing experience there. So now, what kind of gear? What's your dream gear to make that happen? To be able to pull something off like that? Because I'm sure there were lots of technical hurdles that you guys had to try and conquer to be able to pull that off. What's your dream gear? What's that ultimate piece of equipment that you could possibly get now that would help you do all that to recreate that?
Well, I think that actually most of the work there was made by the 3D artists that made lots of the magic for the avatar, for the church, for the animations, etc. I think that probably if I had to pick, a piece of hardware to develop it better was something about the avatar, because the problem for Jean-Michel was that he wanted people to see his exact movements like in real life, because he says, I'm not just an artist that makes music, I'm also someone that dances, that moves, that
Yeah.
moves the finger on his instruments. So you want people to enjoy the full show in VR, exactly like in real life. But we had lots of technical hurdles about that, both because of the lack of proper tracking hardware and the implementation inside VRChat. It is not a mock-up studio, basically VRChat,
Yeah,
so it
that's
is
what I was just going to
limited.
ask. So you didn't have him like doing the full capture suit thing.
We could not, because basically VRChat supports only a few Vive trackers, like
Okay.
two for the legs and one for the torso and other controllers. And that sucks a bit because so the movements of the avatar were a bit choppy sometimes. So the dream to make it even better would be to have better gear for full body tracking and better integration into VR chat.
Now, do you
And
think we actually have that good enough now to do that live? I mean, I know we do. If you're doing if you're doing Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movie, yeah, you can do all that mocap stuff. But to do it in VR, to do it live, do you think we're there yet? Do you think we have the bandwidth to be able to pull that off?
yeah, I think we have. For the avatar, I think we have. It's just a matter of integrating this into VR chat or whatever. The big problem, the big problem that we can have in this kind of social VR events are basically two. The first one is the Quest. You ask me the rig that I would love to
Yeah.
have, and the Quest is totally unshootable. Our event was PC only. On Quest, you could join a version where you are in the church basically looking at video. It was not good enough. I'm honest about it, but because the Quest is not powerful enough. So we need a more powerful standalone headset so people can enjoy this kind of events without a PC. That's super important. And the other problem is the number of people in a single room, because at the moment on VRChat you can have maximum 40 people dancing around you in the room. And we were in a big church, so it looked a
Yeah.
bit empty, like if the concert was not a success. Actually, there was thousands of people connected, but everyone in a different room, clone room called instance, where there
Uh-huh.
were 40 people. So these are lots of technical issues to solve, and it will need time, to find a networking layer to make this possible. And this comes back to the discussion about the metaverse. Sorry if I create a bridge with
Yeah. No,
what
it's a
we're
great,
talking
yeah.
before. One of the things that fascinated me that really wanted to stand up and clap to John Carmack during the last Facebook Connect that said, okay, everyone is talking about this metaverse, blah, 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 but it's so good to be. He talked about architecture astronauts. So being people above all the architecture, above all the high level technical problem streaming. Oh, one day we will have concerts with 10,000 people in the same room in VR. And he says, okay, but let's talk about the real technical issue. To do the matters in lots of optimization, to have those 10,000 people, what kind of networking stuff are you going to use?
Yeah.
Because at the moment, there is none that allows that. It's all a matter of finding practical solutions to problems. And what I would love to hear more in this metaverse hype is people looking for actual solutions, and a bit less people
Yeah.
talking about what will happen in 20 years from now and this kind of dreams.
Yeah, and that's one of those things we talk about here, in the United States with the big infrastructure bill is so much of it is for broadband to bring everybody up to a basic level so that, I mean, because there's no way we even have everybody at a basic level just to do regular TV streaming, 2D streaming, let alone starting to get into anything with virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse kind of stuff yet. So yeah, that's definitely one of those things that we really need to work on. What do you think about thinking how to phrase this one for you better? So what do you think society thinks about that future? Because we started talking about that, about the privacy issues, about those things, and people think, the tinfoil hat idea. But do you think people, when they actually understand what's happening and what it is, do you think that they're more welcoming to it?
I think that still most of the people don't understand what is happening.
Yeah.
VR is
Oh,
still
I
not
agree with that one
mainstream
100%. Yeah.
So, and that's normal. I mean, it's not their field. Probably if someone tells me, "Oh, you have no idea what is happening in the chemical field," I have no idea, in
Yeah.
fact. So maybe they are working on super material that will solve world hunger. I have no idea because it's not my field. So it's pretty normal. It's our job to try to educate people, maybe to approach, communicate to the mass market
Yeah.
and
Okay.
talk about it. Um, when
Now, what do
people
you think is
discover
that because you bring up that really good point there again, and this is twice now in just the last 20 minutes, we've made that point of how do you communicate it? What do you think is the right communication tool? I'll give you an example here at the library. I find that when I'm trying to teach people VR, the best way to really convince them to like this is something you want to spend time in is to put them on Google Earth and let them just explore. And that just and I will have to take people off like no, okay, you've had enough time here, we need to let other people come on. And that just seems to be that app that really immerses them and does it. What do you think it is that we need to do for people to get them to understand along that same line? So like this is what you're aiming for, and if it's not you, it's going to be your kids.
Well, that's a very good question. I don't have such a good answer for you because one of the problems that we have in our community, and that's one also of my big problems, is that we talk between each other basically, but it's hard to talk with people outside because they don't find us. I mean, people
Yeah.
outside our circles can't find my blog and discover, the news that I publish every week because they even why they should find me. So that's basically the problem. What we
And I
should
got your
do,
blog up now to show people here the
thank you.
ghost towels. This is anybody who's out there, you got to go follow this blog. It's great. I've been following Tony for years. He does a really great job of reporting on all of this stuff and just hundreds and hundreds of articles, folks.
Thank you. And basically, I think what we should do is try to educate people in events. I mean, from our side, in events that are not strictly VR related. Can be gaming events, can be enterprise events, where you can do demos, where you can participate to panels, do a talk, etc. To people that are not from our field, and start speaking with them, making them understand VR, etc., etc. And it's been interesting in the beginning. I remember it was 2015 or something like that we did the first event with our full body VR solution. More than 200 people tried it and tried probably VR for the first time, understanding what it was. And we're
Yeah.
pretty proud about it because it was interesting. I think that if you have to want to have more resonance, anyway, we should manage to arrive to the mainstream communication. I mean, influencers, TV programs, newspapers, etc., that talk about general stuff, and maybe they can
Hmm.
talk about also the matters. That's the hard part is that you should have some connections to get there. And personally, I don't have many, so
Yeah.
that's
Well,
that's the
that's
issue.
what this is all about. Is getting people out here to hear about what, different experts and creators like yourself to get out there and see and do these sorts of things. Um, what kind of help do you think you would have liked to get started with? What's looking back, where is something that you would have liked to have had a little bit more help or looking forward, where would you say, here, this is where you need to give you the step up, to give somebody else, to mentor someone else? Where do you think that piece lied in the past for you or what somebody should be looking at in the future?
Well, I'm born as a developer, and my story with the first startup was that in 2015, maybe we had full body virtual reality with no world sensors. So we had with just a system of Kinects and even the Gear VR. So no cables at all. You could have your full avatar with feet, hands, whatever in VR. And that's amazing. Everyone that tried it made lots of compliments. And in 3 years, we failed completely as a business. We never succeeded at all. And you may say, why? And the answer is that because we are techie guys and we thought about everything like techie guys. Well, actually, I like to say this sentence, a startup is all about money. But not because I believe you have to think just about the money, because that's not how I think. But just you have to think that if your startup must survive, you must focus on making money, on having revenues, etc., understanding your market, understand that you have to do marketing, spend money on marketing to people discover you, craft the product that people want to buy. And I was just a techie. Our prototype product was amazing, but it was something that people were not interested in paying for in that form. It was too clunky, too expensive, etc. And no one really guided us in understanding how it is being an entrepreneur because it's easy to make prototypes. It's easy to develop something. If you're a developer, you can develop things. You can even
Mhm.
buy some assets on Unity Asset Store, and maybe with 300 euros or dollars, you can create a game. But and your time, of course. You can even
Yeah.
maybe create a game, but is that game going to make money? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to market it in the right way? How does it work marketing? How do you promote it to the community? Blah, blah, blah. These are things people never think about. That's a huge problem because I see that many people don't understand that. We, especially from the tech world, focus too much on tech solutions, and no one explains us how business works. And I learned it basically because during my startup experience in 2016, we were accepted like in a very short acceleration program. It was a 3 weeks of full immersion in entrepreneurship. And
Okay.
that 3 weeks I understood, this is how business works. But it was too late for our business, basically. But from that moment, I understood why marketing means, why marketing is needed, what are investments, how investors think, how to make money, product market fit. So my suggestion to everyone is, if you really want to come to the VR field creating something, either you understand business or you partner with someone understanding business. Otherwise, you're going to fail, even if a product is amazing.
Do you think that's your biggest failure?
I mean, probably yes. It
Is it
was
that, or did you have some kind of programming bit that you just weren't able to ever work out? That you can picture like this is how it's supposed to happen, but you can't figure out how to make it.
no, I think that this is my biggest failure because, I think we really had a project that could still be interesting now that with VR chat, there are lots of people looking for full body VR solution. We are really trying to do something meaningful for the whole community. And we failed it completely with almost no one knowing about what we did and getting almost no money, spending 3 years on the project. So I can say that is an enormous failure.
Yeah.
I had lots of other things that didn't work out or problems, but this was probably the biggest thing that I failed in my life. But I want also to say that thanks to this failure, also I'm here because everything that I learned during that
Yeah.
process, I'm using it now, etc. So
And that's why we always ask that question because it's almost always it leads to something. You failed at this, but now you learned the lesson and you were able to turn it into something else and make it happen.
yeah, it's fundamental. I mean, when the startup finished, I was like super sad, and that's pretty normal. I mean, everyone that has a failure experience is not happy. And
Yeah.
I think everyone should allow himself to be sad for a while, but then say, okay, I've been sad enough. Let's try to use my experience to do something new. And during the startup, I started a blog that is still super useful now. I started connecting with the community, and now I have lots of people that try to help me, that try to push me to succeed. And that's amazing. I learned a lot about coding, about developing a product, etc. It's what is important is really to say, okay, let's not stop here. Let's do something new and really in whatever project I did, even if it was a failure, I can say that I learned something, and that's what something said a lot of time before me. Failures are good because they teach you lessons, they teach you something. The successes don't teach you anything. So on one side, it's good this way.
So you mentioned a couple of times here that it's really more about time than equipment, it seems to me. That it's much more about that almost everybody's equipment can handle doing the coding in Unity nowadays at a regular computer, a regular desktop at least. But it's really much more about that time that people have to put in time and effort. Do you think that it's a question that someone could do this if they just spend their time learning and taking online courses and doing that stuff? Or do they really need to go into a college setting, into a university setting and take those kinds of things to be successful?
Well, I think that to develop, learn to how to use Unity, learn how to develop something, you don't need to have been in a college, basically. I think everyone can be a good programmer just by following a course and practicing a lot, reading books, etc. I think what college has been good for me is giving me, how to say that in English. In Latin is like the forma mentis, the way of thinking,
Hmm.
uh, the way of thinking, the way of interacting with other people, the way of solving problems. Then more than and a basis with mathematics and these kind of things. Because in my job, sometimes I had myself to do some kind of maths calculations about angles, etc. People ask, why should I study maths? I mean, if you are a game developer, sometimes you have to understand how to make two objects
Yeah.
collide, etc. Make transformation between coordinate systems, and that is all mathematics, and you can do anything about it. So these are the moments when I'm glad of having been in university. Just for the development stuff, you don't need it. If you just
Okay.
have to code the website, most of the time you don't need mathematics. You don't need to understand weird things, etc. But I think that the good thing of the universities that give you a good basis of knowledge and a good way of trying to solve problems. And that could be another interesting topic for who wants to enter the field doing my job, that is the developer. I noticed that there are people, many of the customers I work with like to work with me. And I think that it's not just because I'm a decent developer, but I think that the biggest reason is that I'm trying always to solve problems, to deliver in time, at the right time, finding always a way to make things
Because you're a
work.
good communicator.
Also, but also where, a problem solver. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say that.
No,
Eh,
it is. Yeah. No, you're able to hear what their problem is, and you can solve it for them, and make them understand how it's been fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, and also deliver in time, this kind of stuff. This kind of soft skills. So when I speak with developers, I always tell them they're super important in VR and outside VR, but especially in VR, this is relevant because in VR, nothing is ever going to work as you expected. There are always bugs,
Hmm.
there are performance issues, etc. And maybe you are getting late with the delivery and say, how do I deliver in time? Will we manage to publish this kind of thing in time, etc. One fun thing about the Jean-Michel Jarre concert is that after that
Yeah.
was an after party, and basically we were publishing the after party during the concert. So we were like super late, but we
Yeah.
managed to finish it just in time for the end of the concert.
Awesome.
That's the kind of things that I say, okay, we all had a very cold blood. I say, let's solve
Yeah.
this, let's publish in time, and let's not get crazy. These are important things more than like I write super tidy code with the best algorithms.
Hmm.
That's important, but it's not all the part of the story.
I've already taken so much of your time. Thank you for this, but I have one more question for you on that, and it leads right to where you were there. Where do you think AI, artificial intelligence, in assisting with that coding is coming in now? Do you think that that is something that is going to be that I just type it into the box and, ask the person, hey, code this for me, and they just code it for you? How close are we to something like that, do you think?
I think we are not close yet, luckily, because so I still have a
Because
job.
it keeps your job.
Just kidding. But I know that there's, for instance, GitHub that has released this GitHub pilot that helps you in developing, maybe in JavaScript. I don't remember the exact language, but there is kind of AI plugin for Visual Studio Code that writes you parts of the code
Hmm.
automatically, basically. I think that probably soon we'll get to a point where the usual boring stuff are maybe doing by AI. There are a lot of recurring things, recurring algorithms, etc., that we use when developing. And it will be great if you just say, okay, this is another kind of algorithm, sorting algorithm, for instance, and we do this always the same way. You just say, okay, sorting, and AI fills that for you. So I think that we can reach to this state probably in some years. I think it's not that difficult. Having something that really codes for you, I think will take still more time. And the usual big problem is having something that finds a solution for you, because finding a solution is a matter of creativity, is technical
Yeah.
creativity. People think that creativity is just about art, but actually, even writing a software architecture, finding a solution to problem is still a lot of creativity, and that is something that AI needs a lot of time to catch up with. Sooner or later it will happen. 50 years, 100 years, it will happen, but it won't happen next year for sure.
No.
So let's see.
And that is a perfect tie-in right there for our bow. Yeah, it's all about creativity. See, this is what our show is all about, everybody. Tony, thank you so much for being here this month with us. I think everybody had a lot of fun listening to this and is going to come into it. TheGhostHowls.com, Scared Ghost actually is the .com is where it is on the web. And that the link will be there in the show notes for everybody there. Let me throw up our end slide here. If you have a topic, if you have an idea of what you would like us to cover one of these months on Creation Station Monthly, please contact us, creationstation@Broward.org. That comes right to us, and we'll get you on there again. Anthony, thank you so much for that. You have a great evening out there, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for this. Have a great day and evening, everyone.